Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer at Strike Trade Group, and this is your end of day recap for Monday, the 16th of October. So we are officially now through half the month of October, and today we had a little bit of a bounce back from what we saw towards the end of last week. I will get through all the themes of the day and the observations, and we'll try to come away with a little bit of definitely some things to watch for tomorrow, some levels, technical levels to watch as well. Risk disclaimer in front of you: everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So when you look at the averages for today, kind of interesting, starting with the small caps up 1.6% today. And if you look at some of the sectors that gained today, some, not all, have been some of the underperformers as of late. For example, XRT was your best performing, or one of your best performing groups today. That's the equally weighted retail ETF, up 2.7%. Maybe a little bit of short covering into tomorrow's retail sales report. Also, the banks were up after really getting hit recently, up 2.6%. Perhaps Schwab helped them a little bit today with earnings. You're going to see that, I think, too. Names that are reporting earnings, bad, good, they're going to dictate some of these sector moves over the next couple weeks. So yes, we kind of came away with on Friday, just to kind of go back to Friday's video, where we had a decent move down, I think, from Thursday and Friday, and not a lot to really hang your hat on going into the weekend. But as these last Mondays have been, there's quite a bit of fear over the weekend, whether it's a company going bankrupt or some type of credit event. Now you have geopolitical concerns, and it makes a lot of the Fridays have been very difficult to trade. In fact, when you look at the last 15 Mondays, the market has been up 14 out of 15 of those last Mondays. So Mondays have been very positive. I would think part of the reason is that there's so much there's fear going into the weekend. Traders just don't want to carry a lot of risk. Especially what we saw on Friday, which just seemed like a buyer's strike. Nobody really wanting to kind of go out and get long ahead of the weekend, not really knowing what's going on in the Middle East. So you get a little bit of a snapback rally, and you get decent move by some sectors. What I'm going to cover mostly in this video is what I usually cover, which is relative strength, names and sectors, areas that are doing really well in the market. I don't usually cover too many of the bottom movers, because I just don't trade like that. I mainly stick to trends. So I will do that. Another thing that stood out there is the VIX was down 10%. Again, it was really kind of charged up into Friday. Again, I think a lot of that just, moving on headlines and a lot of geopolitical uncertainty. So kind of a pushback, and we can look at that chart first. I know some people like to chart the technicals in in the VIX. I'm not one of them, but what I do look for is whether it's making new highs, or if it's starting to kind of wane and move down. And I think the latter here. I think that we did not close on the highs on Friday. We didn't take out the previous high, and we're kind of sitting back here. So it's not to say that there's not going to be something else out there, but sometimes the VIX kind of just gives us some information, because sometimes I think the market does know what's kind of going on. So that's a move back to 17. So we'll see it. We'll see if if this conflict simmers a little bit rather than escalates. That could have something to do with how this market moves. Just to talk a little bit about well, let me go through the rest of the themes, but the breadth was pretty good today. If you look at names, well, I'll get to names that made a 4-week new high in just a second, but yes, the breadth was stronger today. We have been seeing stronger breadth. We should get from today's action, we should get a nicey the McClellan summation index. We should get a crossover with the 10-day moving average, mainly possibly for both New York and NASDAQ. So I will check that out later after the when that's published on stockcharts.com. It's a $ NYSI if you want to look for that yourself. Yeah, I tend to overlay that with the 5 or 10-day moving average to kind of help to see if there's a change in tone in breadth. So we'll look at that again after the close, but I think it may have triggered. I've already mentioned this, but some of the recently beaten up areas were outperforming. A big washout in some areas last week. In addition to what has been going on with the Middle East concerns, but also the weight loss drugs have been really causing damage in medical device stocks, as well as not leisure, but snack companies, beverage companies. They've been pretty washed out. The consumer staples group has been pretty washed out. So some of those areas rebounded quite nicely today. Where do I have the medical device ETF up here? I just can't. I may not just be able to find it here. It was up 1% today. Not that big of a rebound. More of a rebound in retail companies. So let's go through the technicals. I brought up the VIX. Rates. Interest rates. Of course, I'm looking at bond prices, not interest rates here. They move inversely to one another. But you could see, we had that bounce in bonds on Friday, but a lot of that kind of came undone. So my thought is here that we're still holding above this virgin point of control, right? And you could see I've talked a lot about this over the last couple of weeks on the weekly chart. Big support here, but we don't really have any follow through yet. My thought is, does the equity market need to see bonds rally? It would be nice, but it may not necessarily need it. We just need to kind of slow down a little bit in terms of yield. So, if that happens, I think that will be a positive. And here's TLT. Again, I go over bonds just about in every one of these videos just because there's definitely been some interesting moves. And there's kind of just interesting 2 dojis after this big red candle. But we remain in a downtrend. So, you can speculate all you want. If the bottom is in bonds, that's fine. I've got my levels to watch. I think that we might have a bottom in bonds, but I'm just speculating based on those virgin point of control takeouts. Remember, those are areas where there's a lot of volume previously, some of them from a real long time ago, right? You could see this is going back 20 years where the last one's been taken out. But so far, I'm going to move on here because I don't want to spend too much time in the video about that. But so far, we are holding above them. So let's move over to the S&P chart. We'll start with the daily chart. So number one, I'll give you a positive here. We moved back into the October value area, so that's a positive, right? Because we closed Friday below the value area. So, maybe we're trying to carve out, a little bit of a, I don't want to say a low here because that was here. And by the way, that was, off of this virgin point of control, but maybe we're just trying to kind of, carve out a pivot here. And as long as we hang about 43.69.75, I can be a little bit constructive about this market. Also notice that we're above these short-term moving averages, the 5 and the 20. That's also a positive. All right. And then of course, on the 1 hour chart, we weren't able to go too far today, right? This has been the situation with this market, that when it approaches just a little bit of short-term resistance, it's been struggling with it. Besides the move from the lows that we've had, it's just been tough sledding for some of these things. And 44.13.25 is the level that I'm watching in S&P. Notice that we got there in the beginning of the day and we just couldn't get through it. We had a nice move and then it was kind of a sleeper in the afternoon, and that's kind of how the market's been, right? The market did move down on a headline, but then we kind of come right back, and we're not willing to, the price isn't willing to break out, but it hasn't been willing to break down either. So yes, 44.13.25, write that level down. If you if you need SPY rather than S&P futures, that level's 436.83. And I did tweet these levels out. I don't just look at these things at the end of the day. I put this out earlier. This was a few hours ago. We talked about it in the trading room. I also sent it out on Substack, earlier today too. Noticing, where we started. I mentioned, here's your resistance, 43.57 and 44.13.25. So that's certainly, coming into play. Qs, a little bit different looking. So let's go and we'll start with the daily chart. We know that we've been making lower highs. But we're holding in here, right? And that's a first step. The question is, can we do much more than this, right? This we did not get to the top of the value area, unlike at the S&P. We could have some more room to run, which is up to 372.06. So if you're looking to play one versus the other here, I would play Qs, but realize that you've got resistance about $3 up, and I am long the Qs. I did go long. I did buy some things into Friday's weakness. Why did I do that without any, proper confirmation or anything like that? Just a little bit of, traders feeling. I just thought that there was a little bit too much, fear on the tape, and just also noting that Mondays have been, you got to use some of these, use some of these probabilities. The SPY is now up 14 out of the last 15 Mondays. That's a crazy stat, isn't it? 14 out of the last 15 Mondays. Tuesdays, by the way, are not that positive. They've only been out of the last, I just went back 14 weeks because obviously we don't have the 15th Tuesday. We won't have that until just trying to compare apples to apples. But out of the last 14 Tuesdays, SPY has only been up 5 of those. So it's been a turnaround Tuesday to the downside. So that's the pattern, and you have that data, and you can kind of use that a little bit to your advantage. You want to be, in my opinion, just noting the last 15 the last 15 weeks, it's been paying to go long on Friday, sell some into Monday, and then be careful of that reversal on Tuesday. So just a heads up on that. Now note, Tuesday was positive last week, so maybe we're starting a new trend. IWM, just really quick, was the outperformer. It's been the underperformer, so sometimes we get that. For now, it does look like it's trying to carve out maybe a double, but maybe this is a double bottom here. Note that the RSI did not make a new low on this last attempt, so a little bit of a bullish divergence, but you got a whole bunch of resistance up here, and this did make it into the value area for the week, but let's see what it does there, and I would watch that 172 support. All right, so some names to talk about. I'll start with one of the strongest groups right now. Not exciting, but one of the strongest groups right now is the insurance stocks, right? We saw this big earnings report by Progressive on Friday, right? And I looked through some charts this weekend. There was a couple names that looked okay. Nice follow through, right, by Progressive, up another 1.4% today. ALL, which was a trader in our trading room today had mentioned, hey, this Allstate looks pretty good today, and it was rallying, it was grinding higher for most part of the day, and then Trian announced, or there was a headline about Trian accumulating a stake. So I think these look pretty interesting. The one that I am long in my longer term account, my TTG trend portfolio, is Unum, right? This name has been looking pretty decently. These are slow moving stocks for the most part. Now, Progressive didn't move slow on Friday, but for the most part, they are on average. So it's probably the best way to say it, but that's one that I like within the group. All right, and then the cyber stocks have been acting well, right? Palo Alto, which had a real nice week last week. It, didn't have a monster day today, but is holding the 5-period moving average. Same thing with Cyber, not Cyber, but Cybers actually did did do well today. CrowdStrike, I like how it kind of tested that 5-period moving average and is holding in here. So maybe just consolidating. Now it may consolidate for a bit. I did put on a little bit of just a starter position, just because I don't want to add stuff on. I don't want to add a lot of risk on Mondays, but looks pretty good. And Zscaler, I actually added to this position. This was a position I went long, took a couple targets in, and then waited, was patient on this little bit of a pullback. But you could see they're all kind of acting this similarly, right? They're not losing that 5-period moving average. Some of them look more constructive than others, but they're all holding that trend. This is another one, not Verisign, but actually that symbol doesn't look bad. VRNS, which is a cyber name, maybe a little bit more in the weeds, but I sent out this chart on Friday. Now, I didn't go long this one, but I thought that it looked kind of interesting on Friday. Now, it gave back some of those gains on Friday after I retweeted it, but look at the volume on this thing. Right now, this name is going to report earnings on at the end of the month, but look at the chart. Does not look bad. It's been basing for a bit, so maybe this thing can begin to kind of run a little bit out of this range. It's definitely a name that I would keep an eye on. Going back to insurance, I forgot this one, Aflac. Right, again, not an exciting name, but I'll tell you, this thing has made a nice run from about 77 when it broke out. Now stock's up to 81. So again, I'd like to show where the strength is in the market. This appears to be it. Another name that I've been talking about too, again, not really exciting. They make protein shakes, right? This is Bellring Brands, the Power Bar, right? Real nice move today. Again, just trying to follow the price action, follow the breakout, and had a real nice day today on the move higher. Notice last week, it put in a nice day on Friday when not a lot of stocks did. So some nice follow through from there. The defense stocks, these are kind of tough because if there's going to be worse things that come out, from the Middle East situation, then these stocks should do well theoretically. KTOS is a name I think I covered if not last week's video. We talked about it in the trading room. I'm still long this DRS. Right. It pushed back a little bit today, but it didn't close too far off the highs. So far, it's holding the trend, so no reason for me to get rid of it. I took some targets on Friday. I guess I could have taken a target this morning too, but I already took 2 targets in the name, so I'm comfortable with what it's doing. To go over some of the bigger names, right? I still like Synopsys. Right. I had a chart up earlier. I don't think I have it anymore. But all right, so this is Synopsys. So this is the chart that I wanted to go over. This is Synopsys versus the rest of the semis. Look at the outperformance. Sorry, let me move this up so you can see the time frame on the bottom. But this is just over the last 5 years. Look at the relative strength in this company. So it's really outperforming its peers, and I think you could see the same thing with Cadence, right? I know the names that get so much attention, are NVIDIA, which as it should. And NVIDIA, I would watch this top of value to see if it can. It got a little bit of a rejection there, but watch to see if it can get above 462.80, right? But the other one that everybody always focuses on so much, I don't really understand why, because it's been such an underperformer. And if you don't believe me, but this is the one everybody seems to like. This one got rejected, shocker, right at the top of value at 109.90. But here's the difference. Here's Synopsys versus SMH, right? And if you want to look the difference between of a name that's underperforming and a name that's outperforming, you could look at same thing, AMD, and we'll bring up the 5-year chart of AMD versus SMH, the semi ETF, right? And you can see the difference. It's not very good, right? When you're looking at this. So AMD just continues to underperform, or maybe even go, over the last couple months, it's underperformed its group. And has been really going sideways over the last couple of years. So not a lot of big difference between owning AMD versus owning the ETF. Probably you have a little bit better performance if you just own the ETF. But we want so the reason why I illustrate this is because you want things that are outperforming their peers, right? And Synopsys, NVIDIA, and then I would also add Cadence. right, is another one that's been quietly doing really well. These are tough. These are high price stocks. So they're a little bit harder to trade. But if you're holding like, longer term, look at this as holding its 5-period moving average and breaking out, right? Would you rather own something that is continuously making more and more new highs, or that's struggling with overhead resistance? I would rather go with the one that's trending and making more and more new highs, because this one's has been breaking out and a little bit of digestion in here. I think this is a good watch going forward. A couple other names too. I mentioned I would talk about breadth just for a quick second. Here's the names. I like to show this every so often, but these are names making not 52-week highs, but 4-week new highs, so monthly highs. And in the S&P, you've got 51 names that are making new highs today, and only 11 names that are making new monthly lows. So this is good. While the price action is still a little bit challenged, and while we're hitting some short-term resistance, clearly this is good news to see that when you look under the hood, there's more names that are participating in the move rather than the other way around. Remember, this hasn't been the case over the last couple months, right? There's been many more new 4-week lows than new highs. So this is a good start. Now we just need to kind of push, continue to push here and break some of those 1 hour, some of those value areas for the week. All right, guys, thanks for watching the video. Have a great night. By the way, if you're not a member of the Tribeca Trade Group and you want to check out, you want a free look, right? You can just go to tribecatradegroup.com. You can put in your email address and you can get our end of day recap, which shows what's on our watch list, what names are doing well on the watch list, what names have triggered, and as well all the positions that I'm holding, where I got into them, and so on and so forth. All that I put all that in a spread, that's all in spreadsheet form and is in the end of day email that you get. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.